Step into your future with an all-new series, Star Trek Starfleet Academy.
Being a cadet means being open to the people around you.
I've spent my whole life getting away from stuff, letting someone in. It's hard.
I want to be captain. I need to be captain.
Holly Hunter and Paul Giamatti's star.
You'll encounter challenges your predecessors never had to imagine.
Starfleet Academy. New series streaming January 15th on Paramount+.
Hello and welcome back to the first Cardiff Central podcast of 2026. A new year, but the same frustrations as Cardiff struggle across the festive derbies, culminating in a tough outing at the Brewery Field last week. We'll be going over the performances, ongoing mental blocks, and discussing whether the Blue and Blacks are actually in a crisis. Elsewhere, the Rags win and fall foul of the weather. The ownership saga rumbles on, and it's a look ahead to Racing this weekend, as well as your question. Joining me on the panel this week, we've got Simon Jones. Simon, how are you? How's your Christmas?
Very good, thank you. Happy New Year, everybody. We got a new roof on the back of the house, so that was a wonderful Christmas gift.
Good stuff. Tony Esposito. Tony, how are you? How was your Christmas?
I'm good. Cardiff beat Bridgend twice over the Christmas period, so I am delighted.
At least somebody enjoyed something in Bridgend this Christmas anyway. And Harley Worthy. Harley, how are you? How was your Christmas?
Yeah, it was all right. I mean, as long as I don't think about rugby too much, it was great.
It's a good job you're not on a rugby-related podcast then, Harley.
Yeah. Fortunately, shut your ears for the next hour.
Of the bloody things.
We will start the on-field action. Obviously, there's been two games while we've been off podcasting for the Christmas period, so we'll sort of cover them both in one big, not particularly happy segment. Even though we did beat the Dragons, it wasn't exactly a classic. So Boxing Day, Cardiff 22-19, Dragons, tries from Javan Sebastian, Alex Mann, 7 points from Callum Sheedy, getting the win there just about after a dramatic final 5 to 10 minutes or so where Adam Jones's big backside got in the way and threatened to spoil things, but we managed to get out of that one alive. Before New Year's Day, trip to Bridgend, Ospreys 33, Cardiff 22. Tries from Josh Adams, who got 2 to Lupe Falatau, and another one for Javan Sebastian. Obviously, a lot of focus on Josh Adams try scoring, but nobody's talking about Javan Sebastian on the wing for Wales, are they? 2 points for Callum Sheedy, as well as Cardiff stole a bonus point in defeat against the Ospreys. We had loads of three-word thoughts after both games, as they both listed quite a response. So I'll summarise briefly the Dragons ones. Andrew said, streak still continues. Gareth said, usual story, just. Ian went with almost lost it. Martin went with the classic clubhouse law protects. And then, as was the theme, carrying on from the Scarlets game, similar entries from Hugh, Graham, Robert, Peter, Tom, Rob and Morgan. A mix of kick for goal and take the three, well summarised by Reese, who just said, fucking kick it. And then after the Ospreys game, Ben said scoreline flattered us. Geeks are cool, said wheels are coming off. Gerwin went with absolutely bloody awful. Paul said with letting ourselves down. Clive said usual service resumed. Dan went with missing Matt Sherratt. And Rob said unacceptable derby performance. Simon, coming to you, what's your general thoughts of the festive period that Cardiff enjoyed / not enjoyed?
Why do I have to be first? Oh, come on. There's 3 others. Yeah, it was pretty turgid stuff, really, over both games. I mean, the Dragons game was felt almost exactly like the Scarlets game, where we're banging on the door, and then accuracy lets us down. I think at one point we went to pass out. We were on their line, and I think the pass went behind somebody, and we ended up like in our own 22. It felt very much like deja vu, and especially towards the end. You're like, okay, we're gonna drop points here, aren't we? So kind of to get away with it is a bit of a positive, but there was no kind of improvement necessarily between those two games. And the Ospreys game was we were just beaten by the better team on the day. I think I've been mulling it over in my head, and it was just like, I think they were more physical, more fired up. When they had the ball, they took their chances better as well. I thought, a couple of their scores were quite well worked. When they got a bit of luck. They capitalised on it. I think both the Dragons and the Ospreys. I think there was a couple of opportunities that just bounced their way and they scored from them. So I think, I think we just got to close the book on it, if I'm honest. I just don't think there's anything. The one thing that it did make me think on is like that Scarlets game. Is that having a bit of a psychological impact of not getting over the line in that game and battering on the door and not getting there? Because similar types of problems happening in both games of just being a bit too I think Belcher said it a number of times, kind of going in on their own rather than together in terms of driving forward and picking drives and things like that and getting isolated, and that seemed to be across all three games as well. So I don't know whether there's a bit of kind of a mental barrier. I mean, obviously the defence collapsed completely for that 10-20 minute period in the second half, at the start of the second half. For the Ospreys, you could have driven their much heralded Bridgend articulated truck through for Hardy's second try. That gap was enormous that he ran into. So everything just went wrong, it feels. But it felt as well, I think you mentioned this in your blog, Dan, about kind of being emotionally ready. It felt like there was a mental exhaustion in that Ospreys game as well. These three games, they come quick and fast after each other. I'm not using this as an excuse, but it is a lot of physical and mental strain in those three games. And it just felt like we didn't have it in the tank against the Ospreys to deal with what they threw at us. And probably they should have been further ahead at half time.
That Belcher comment about we're going in one in is very telling, seeing as that is our 5 meters out, 10 meters out penalty move of, well, Belcher will just run in from 10 meters and just run straight into three of their lads, and we'll just crash in and turn it over 2 phases later, or even one.
So I think there were some good performances, but I think before Christmas we talked about these kind of three games. We'll know where we are. I'm not sure I know where we are, to be honest, because there was three very similar performances. I don't know whether it's just playing Welsh teams or whether it's something more long term. So just close the book and move on. That's the podcast. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back next week.
Tony, what was your take on the two games?
Well, I think I joked in our WhatsApp chat that Lee could have just AI'd changed the Scarlet references to Dragons ones and just re-released that podcast, because it would have been exactly the same. And then I guess if we look at it, our attacking pattern for the Ospreys was the same as it was against the Dragons, same as it was against the Scarlet, same as it was against Ulster, same as it was against Zebra. We got wins out of two of those, but we've really struggled outside of that. Defensively, up until the Osprey game, I thought we looked all right, but just going forward, we just look in a proper rut. I think we're really starting to miss. I think one of the three-word thoughts you mentioned was about Sherritt, missing Sherritt, and I think we're really starting to see what not having Sherritt in and around the squad now is starting to have real impact on us. Like Simon said, we got 5 points, or however many points, I think 7 in the end or something. Draw a line under it. I would have wanted 9 coming into that 3 block. We're -2. We're up on where we were this time last year. Let's just go. The ranks are good.
Harley, I know you've covered the 2 games on wrap this week as well, after the smugness of Nick and a bit Dan as well, after their teams were quite good over the festive period. But just for anyone who didn't listen, what were your 2 thoughts on the game? And I suppose in particular, just how bad was New Year's Day in terms of this season and the last few years as a performance?
Well, it is.
We can't hear you.
Where we always seem to play our absolute worst around this time of year, and the Ospreys play at their absolute best. General thoughts are it was definitely a lesson in the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results with the 5 meter taps. Because I feel like our attack actually, generally speaking, from about 22 to 22, our attack works really well. But as soon as we get within about 10 meters, as soon as we make these fantastic line breaks and busts, we go back to a pick and go game or we do the 5 meter taps, and then it goes completely to shit. And I think that's the problem is we're fucking up the most important 10 yards. That being said, it's fantastic performances. You kind of expect the other Welsh sides, especially now Jockey's coaching a lot of these players that we're coming up against the Cardiff attack. You feel like they know a little bit more of where they need to stand, where they're going to be able to get away to get more defensively. But it still doesn't excuse things like, again, Belcher is all heart and soul. He's a proper talisman of the club. But he's not the guy I'm thinking, he's the guy I want taking a 5 meter tap. Especially when he stood next to Alan Lawrence and James Botham at one point. And just thinking, the people I'd rather do, like, Evan Lloyd I could probably trust to do it. He's got that extra mass, but I think we were lucky. There are a lot of people saying about how we should have gotten 2 points out of that game, and I'm thinking we were lucky for the one. Because the Ospreys clearly were just knackered in those last 10 minutes and just let us waltz through at some points.
The moment they took Hardy off, they had no one sweeping, and we took advantage of that. But before that, we really struggled against him on the kicking thing and the 5 meter taps. The only time I've heard the South Terrace cheer as loud as they did for us taking a kick at goal against the Dragons was when we beat Pau in that semi-final a couple of years ago. That was the last time I heard them that loud for something. Yeah.
I think as well, just thinking back to the Lions game at the start of the season, what really impressed me about our attack was we were throwing up lots of different ball carriers as options to kind of keep the defence guessing. There was like forwards going up, or it could go out the back, or it could go flat or pull back to a forward. We seem to have lost that. We seem to be passing it into midfield, trying to truck it up from midfield, but there's no kind of disguise over what's happening, or it doesn't seem to be as dynamic as it was previously, because that really impressed me against the Lions. It was kind of, you didn't know who was quite going to get the ball, and that was fixing defences. And I think we've moved away from that a little bit. It may well be that was the plan that was in place for that game, so we went with it, and that's kind of adapted along the way. But I know we're going to probably come on and talk about the attack, but it just feels a bit staid and rigid. When we did score, it was from kind of broken field play as well, rather than the first try, which Ben Thomas has got that running style that just makes him look like he's not going very fast, but I think he probably is moving quite quickly. It's that kind of glide that Henson always used to have. I was kind of like, he doesn't look very quick, but actually he's covering ground, and I thought the couple of breaks he made were superb. But again, that was kind of broken field play. We seem to be struggling a little bit and last season we were quite good actually from strike plays, from kind of set piece, but we seem to be struggling to work that out.
Do you think that's speed of ball?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, I think it is. I think Mulder's pass is a lot quicker than Ali Davis's. But I also think we seem to have a pod set up in midfield with either Alan Lawrence or something like that comes onto the ball, but then gets tackled, and we're not kind of moving quickly enough. After that, it's like, oh, right, where do we go now? From a set piece play, it's not. One, it's probably not going to work because you've got a massive guy stood in midfield and you're just going to pass it to him. They're going to know where it's going, but it doesn't seem to be necessarily getting us on the front foot either. So I think there's something around how that's all working. And then, again, we'll probably come on to it. You haven't got a game breaker like Bowen to just step and go that kind of gets that momentum. And I think you're right, Harley. When we're getting to the 22, we're killing the momentum by a series of pick and drives that aren't really, it's not even drawing defenders in. So there's width, there's space outside. It's kind of drawing in those that are around the ruck rather than kind of testing. So, yeah, a lot to work on.
Also, I'm going to be very controversial here. Sorry.
No, go on.
We're not kicking enough. That's the other thing. Like when we've been playing at the best, again, it's finding that broken field and the mismatches. It's when we're basically
Yeah,
kicking lows and kicking smart and playing in
we're
the right areas.
I'd say
40% of the game
we're
was
kicking quite a lot, but we're not kicking smart. I think that kicking smart bit is the real key bit. Sorry, Harley.
we're still on like 7.5 passes per kick, which is quite high. Like if you look at all the best teams, they're closer down to about 3 or 4. And if you look at the territory, like 40% of the game was played in R22. A lot of that is just because the Ospreys we were shipping penalties and the Ospreys were camped in there. But then we're also trying to play out instead of just kicking smart, making sure. And then when we're in the middle of the field, it's when we're going anywhere. We're quite guilty of going for that extra 1 or 2 phases before we hoof it further downfield and try and find some space in the backfield. And we've gone for this tactic now since the Ulster game where we've got both Mason Grady and Josh Adams, in theory, having bigger guys for the aerial threat, but we're still probably just as bad in the air, which makes you wonder why, if we're still going to struggle, why not kick a little bit longer so it's less of a worry about competition, but have someone like Tom Bowen who's going to do something? Or if you really want, your kicking game range, bring in Jake and Beetham and just have him kick it 80 meters each time.
There was one kick in the Osprey game where we did go a bit longer, and Mason Grady was chasing it, realized he wasn't going to get to it because it was bouncing towards the try line, and you could see him physically just give up on the chase. And then the Osprey fullback had to turn round before then exiting, and because he's given up on the run, that lad's got 5 or 10 yards before he gets any pressure on him whatsoever, so he can pick his spot on the touchline and kick and exit really well. Like if we're going to kick long, we've got to put pressure on it, and I think that's what you get from Bowen and Stevens. Quite interestingly, the Rags play have run a couple of surprise plays where they look like they're setting up to kick and they run when teams start to drop. I think Cardiff did one of them against Ulster and made a massive break. I have a vague memory of it. So there's bits and pieces of it where we can start to work on stuff like that. But you're right, like our kick chase game at the moment is just so poor. We can't get any ball back.
Paul sent in a message. Just to clarify what we said earlier, Tony, it's 6 points that we got from the 3 games. So Paul said, "What do we think of the number of points that we should have been targeting over the festive derbies? We got 6, but should it have been 8 out of 10?" And that kind of links into one of the questions that I put out on our script before, which was, is this time to panic, or Simon, do we always just lose the Scarlets home, Ospreys away, and struggle past the Dragons, and then it's just like that's just kind of how we do it, and we move on? To be honest, I don't really know what to make of that whole last 3 weeks. So I just wonder what people thought generally about. Do we just I know you've mentioned writing it off, but is there a lingering concern about the standard of the performance, or do you think the players are going to be able to just put that behind them and move on?
Well, I think, yeah, there is. I don't think it's like panic stations, because these derby games are like individual. Any derby game, I know it's a cliche, is an individual game with all the pressure and all the stuff that's going on around Welsh rugby in general. There's extra appetite around it. The fact that we are flying high and getting plaudits for being so high up in the league, there's an extra target on our back as well. As you said in the chat, Dan, the Scarlets game becomes more and more infuriating every time they play, because it's kind of like, well, how did we not beat this team? The Dragons game, we can blow them away sometimes, but increasingly it's become a bit of an arm wrestle, particularly at their place. But it's been known at ours as well. And the bottom line is we were comfortably in control of that game, and then just lost our heads for the last 10 minutes, conceded a penalty try. I think it was they shaped a kick, I think, Tony, and then De Beer went down the blind side and kind of broke into the 22, and that's where the penalty came from. We just switched off. So again, like the Scarlets game, you felt we were in control of it, but not quite in control of it. I think the Ospreys game, I just put down to we had a really bad day. They had a good day. But as we've said, already, it's the similar issues that are coming up. In a sense, going into a game against Racing that will be a completely different style of rugby that we'll be faced with might be good, because it might well be right, we need to try something different. Let's think about how we do this. Although it is still an important game. I know we'll come on to that, but I'm not at panic stations where 6 points isn't good enough. It isn't where we want to be coming out of this block of fixtures, and not, I've said before, not looking at them as derbies, but looking at them at where those teams are in the league. If we are second, we should be winning those games at home with bonus points, and picking up a win away. Just looking at league positions, you add in the derby, then that narrows the kind of points difference. It's always going to be tougher when you're playing teams that are from the same country and that you have a history of playing. But if you just look at it from our development, we should be winning those games. We didn't. You kind of go, you've got to learn from them, and the learning is the same in every game. Probably a bit more about the defence against the Ospreys. We knew they were going to be physical. They always are. But just defence seemed to disappear for periods, or we gave away penalties. We piggybacked teams into our 22, which is not what you want to do with the Ospreys, really.
We got on the we were doing something at the scrum that Adam Jones didn't like as well. So that Azarati got a real, like, I haven't seen much of the scrums back, but he was getting an absolute tune in to the point where you just can't get anything going, and especially against the Ospreys, like, they'll just keep going back to that well, especially against us, because they know that they can get at us that way. And there is an element of, oh no, here we go again, to it, doing the GTA meme. But yeah, it is what it is.
I think
right to one, it's fun.
You've just got to look at it as going into now Racing, Exeter, and then Benetton. Is it?
Yeah,
is
Benetton home, Ulster away when we lose Wales internationals, and I'm just there looking. So for me, I very optimistic, and I was probably targeting between 10 and 12 points over those 3 games, because frankly, it's possibly the most piss poor Scarlet side in years. The Dragons are the Dragons, although I mean, admittedly, their last couple of games have been showing they've improved, and I'll be honest, the Ospreys hadn't shown much this season, really, that we should be worried about, because we played teams like Munster and dealt with their physicality. The Lions are a physical team when they want to be. We dealt with that. So I felt it was the being out-muscled by that really sort of irked me a bit there. And, and I was looking at it as a team that supposedly want to be not just make it scraping 8th to make the playoffs and then get dicked in the quarterfinal. I was thinking of a team that wants to get in a decent position, and we've got to start getting over mental blocks over these teams. Otherwise, we're just always going to be that 9th place team. Because if we want to be consistently top 8, we've got to be getting through it. And I'm looking at some of those other games, and it's going to be really hard to pick up those extra points to keep us in the top 8.
I think there's a lot to be said about the emotional aspect of the Osprey. Like, the crowd was there were lots of chants of one true region and that sort of stuff at the Brewery Field. So and if the players have fed off that in the build up as well, there's a lot of emotional thing, which might be why they caught us cold. I'm still putting it down to the flashing streetlights behind the goal when we were warming up kicking, but I as much as I completely agree, we should be putting those teams in their place. There is also, we are, and I'm going to get absolutely kicked for this, we are those guys' cup final in a lot of respects, especially at the moment where we're the ones who are, like, quote unquote safe in their eyes. So they want to absolutely kick us. So yeah, I think there's a lot. I think there's massively different things that can be passed from it. But you're right, the performances weren't acceptable.
I think there's an important point that I guess you both make around how we, the last few seasons, I think all of Welsh rugby teams, but Cardiff in particular, probably going back to like those COVID games, have been like the plucky underdogs of, well, we're scrappy and we're doing the best we can with a low budget and we're just trying to like survive in this league. It's a very different mentality to then go into games where you're second in the league or third in the league or fourth in the league. I don't think maybe that's not sitting particularly well because the opposition's mentality is different. It's like, oh, well, these guys are up there. We've got to be on our game rather than, oh, it's just, one of the Welsh sides turning up who are like 12th and, we will win this. So I think there's probably something. I just took a lot of, and I've got no evidence for this at all. It felt like mentally we weren't quite there on New Year's Day. It was either mentally tiredness or that being the favourites we weren't particularly comfortable with that. But I think we need to get used to it. There's enough experience out on that pitch. We're not like a load of youngsters anymore. There's enough experience on that pitch to be able to handle that. But it's probably not a position we've been in very often, where we're the ones that are being there to be overturned because of league position. I think you're right, Tony. Derbies bring a different aspect to it, and I think that does play into it. But I think we've got to start getting comfortable with our league position and go into these games going, yeah, we're gonna challenge you because we're good enough and because we deserve to be in that league position. Because I do believe we deserve to be in that league position. We've beaten the teams that we've beaten, and probably should have picked up more points along the way. So what do I know? But I think there is feels like some psychology stuff as well to kind of toughen up around what we do. And when we are challenged, how do we get out of it? How do we kind of go back to kicking long, kicking the ball out dead rather than to compete, just to kind of keep, let's reset, let's get back in this game.
That leads on nicely to what Glenn sent a thought in, that the second half of the season will show us if Van Zyl is the man to take us that step further than last season. And Tony, I suppose one of the questions that come out of this festive period is, has his bid to be the permanent head coach taken a hit after what we've seen, both in terms of tactical and mental preparation the last few weeks?
Maybe his is taking a little bit of a hit, but I think if I was hiring now, I'd be looking at a full-time proper attack coach and not just Dan Fish and I can't remember his name.
Johnny Goodridge.
That one. Doing what they're doing, bringing maybe a bit of experience above the top, and guiding those two, or guiding Goodridge again. Like I just feel that it's not Van Zyl's area of expertise, and we're relying on a lad who's not done it at that top level and another lad who's split this time between coaching the Rags. So
I came to that because obviously the thing we've been really frustrated with is those 5-meter taps, and that's forwards play.
Yeah.
And he is the forward, but is it because he's got to do all the other jobs? Is he maybe not spending enough time doing the work with the forwards?
Quite possibly. Although I do wonder whether that there's instructions coming from the sideline and it's just Belcher going, no boys, we'll tap and go. It's fine. I'll do it. It's fine. Because when he's not on the pitch, we'll kick a goal. But
my big issue, I think, with Van Zyl after the last few games was particularly the Ospreys game. I just wonder what on earth was said in that change room at half-time. Because, I mean, we, like Simon mentioned earlier, we got battered in that first half, but we were still, I think, were we 5 points down at the break? It was 12-7, I think, wasn't it? And there was an opportunity there where we were back up to 15 after the yellow card, and to just get in 10 minutes, regroup. I don't think, although we were like significantly second best, I don't think it would have been massive changes that we would have needed to get ourselves a bit of a grip on that game. As we mentioned, tune up the kick in a little bit, look to kick a bit longer, chase a bit harder, put some pressure on, get out of our own territory. And we know then that even if we're not quite at the races, we've still got enough individual quality in that attack to make something happen if we can just cling on. We had plenty of quality coming off that bench, about 55, 60 minutes if we were still in it. And even, I know the Ospreys are declared essentially in that last 10 minutes, but we still showed that they're what, Botham and Faletau are such good players. Beetham can come on and make something happen. Ali Davis has got loads of experience. And so, as much as, there's senior leaders within the squad that need to take a bit of responsibility for that, for the messaging, and assistant coaches, I think Van Zyl, as the head coach, needs to maybe review what was being said or how it was being said in that break, because not only did we not regroup, I mean, we came out noticeably, well, I mean, we were third best in a two-horse race basically in the first 20 minutes of that second half. So that's my Van Zyl question. But Harley, Tony's right to mention the attack coach there, and I just sort of put a subsection of 3-word thoughts in, which came from both games, where Rob said attack missing jockey. Ryan said attack coach required. Reese says attack coach needed. Charlie went with Sherritt's departure showing. Dan from Glad Rugby went with need skills coach. Rob said sort out the back line. With that attack, what would you like to see us do first to sort of remedy how poorly we've attacked in the last few weeks?
I mean, one of the big things is handling errors. The amount of moves that have busted because the pass has gone behind, someone's overran it, or they fumbled it, and there were a couple of incidences where someone tried to get past the ball. They passed the ball to Mason Grady, and it went over his head. He's 6'5". How high are you aiming? Like, it's fair enough. Like when when the scrum half roll pens, it catches me full on in the face because I'm only like 5'11". But like, how do you miss Mason Grady? He's fucking massive. But yeah, and it's just lots of little things like that. Like I genuinely feel like that especially the Scarlets game was terrible for it. That the last pass was not going to hand. I genuinely think if that tightens up. So I don't know if that's just because there are lots of players who've been swapping in or out, or if it, like Simon said, mental fatigue. That for me, I think would solve an awful lot. The other one is I think we need to bring back some actual, one of the things you pointed out on your blog and on this pod before the autumn was, Jockey saying with shifting the ball when they're 5 meters out, just that little, just that little shift to try and catch someone who's slightly on the outside of the defense, and we're not doing that anymore. I don't know why that stopped. I don't know if that was something that was particularly with Teddy Williams, and we're missing him being almost more of a playmaker in the pack.
We've done that on the 10-meter line. We've done that. Like, what was it? George Knott gave that lovely little pass for someone to break through, and then Josh McNally did it against the Scarlets, I think, as well. It's like, or the Dragons. Like, we do it on the 10-meter line. But we won't do it inside the 22.
Yeah, but it's one of those things. It works because it captures people out. And I don't know why we don't do it. I don't know if maybe the comms from the backs isn't quite good enough as well. Because sometimes you see, there's plenty of space, and you see the defense honeypotting, and we just seem to be trying to pull the ball over the top of the other players, which easy to defend. 2, it slows your ball down more because you're pinning yourself and the ball on top of more bodies, so it takes longer for the ball to get out. And I said I don't think it's revolutionary for the attack at all, because how easily we can get into the 22 is fine. It's the fine details in the last few minutes. So maybe that does need a fresh attack coach mind, just to go over and say, think about it this way, or instead of going for this thing that you need to be, if you're off by 1% in your pass or your line, it goes wrong, and you say, try it this way. All right, it may not necessarily lead to a try every time, but we'll keep the ball every time, and we can just keep momentum going. That would be better. I think for me again, and then going back to the kicking game, and let's try and get that defense moving around, get people tighter in longer sets. That for me, I think, is going to be one of our big keys.
I think if you look at, we scored some nice tries against the Ospreys. That Faletau try is really simple, but the angle he comes at to target the gap makes it look so easy, like he's just flopped over. But how many times, my gut feeling was our forward would look for contact and take somebody over rather than, aiming for the shoulder and, what was a relatively easy score. But it's all about the angle and the pace he comes onto the ball. That that is coachable, absolutely. But that's his experience of going, I know exactly where I'm going to go from this pass and score. I thought both Adams' tries were well worked and well scored. And I think, obviously there's been a lot of talk about, it's great to see him scoring again. Jaron Sebastian can't stop scoring. I agree with you, Dan. They're all from within a yard, or pretty much. You might say they're from further, like the edge of the 22, but I think they're all pretty close in.
If you add them all up, they're all from 30 yards.
But exactly, they're coast to coast tries when it's back in the changing room. But I think that then it's the mystery of our tap and goes where we're using the smallest member of the front row to do that, rather than. Or if you're using Belcher, somebody's got to be close enough to him that when he makes contact can get behind him and drive him over.
What I don't think about our tap penalties, I don't necessarily mind Belcher being the first man up, but what worked really well under Jockey, and like we did it a couple of times even away in South Africa at the end of last season, is Belcher goes in first with no real intention to get anywhere. He's just hitting up and hitting the deck. And then the second phase is, for example, Alan Lawrence with Alex Mann as a latch, and they're powering over because you've assumed that Belcher's picked out one of their bigger guys to take to the floor, and then there's some slightly smaller guys to aim at. That works really well. Unfortunately, we seem to have completely forgotten that there's a phase after the first phase. And so I think it was Azarati who took one under the post in the second phase. He looked as surprised as anybody that he was getting the ball in that second phase as it came to him. He got turned over, isolated. And Johnny Goodridge under Shearer, I understand his remit was just starter plays. That's what he was doing, and then Jockey was taking over. I kind of like the idea that he sat in the stand watching the attack and going, we really should work on stuff after the first plays, because I've done the starter plays really well, but we're just not doing anything else now. I think somebody needs to get in and coach that. But that's my issue with the tap penalties, is that we don't look like we know where we're trying to go after that initial hit, and that is a concern that hopefully they're addressing it. The training video today was slightly different, I thought, in that quite often on the training videos we're doing the same move every time in the attack, the sort of pull back and the blindside wingers come in, and we looked like we were doing something different in training in the video today. So I hope that's a change, but it is all over the shop at the moment.
Double bluff harassing.
Yeah, they're watching the video, and then we'll just go back to do the same play anyway.
Whatever happened to a lad running from 10 yards deep? Just tap the ball and pop it up to him, he catches it, and just collides with people.
The Rugby League.
Yeah, sometimes it's an oldie for a good reason.
I think we call that an edge.
Yeah.
An old pens.
Simon, was there any positives, I suppose, on a team and individual basis that we could take forward from those games?
Yeah, I thought Alex Mann was outstanding on New Year's Day. There was one penalty where he went into contact, then he went to place it, then decided not to place it, and then got conceded. And I was just like, what were you doing there? But I thought he was physical, he was abrasive, he turned over, got to loads of work, loads of carries. There's much praised Osprey's kind of back row, and I thought he stood up to all of that pretty much on his own at times, getting in people's faces, and I thought he had a really good game. I think, as you say, across the three games, I think Ben Thomas is starting to get back into the flow of things, just in terms of how he wants to play, and that's not as a crash ball 12, but that's as a 12 that picks the right moment to test the defence physically. But I thought he was excellent on New Year's Day. And then Josh Adams amongst the tries. I've always feel for Adams. There are times where he's clean through and the ball doesn't quite go to hand, or it knocks on, and he went through a period of that. But all his scores were really good finishes. Finishes you'd expect from a Lions and international winger, but still good to get that kind of confidence under the belt. I mean, I think that's probably my extent of it over those three games. There were players that noticeably kind of dipped off. I think that aren't they usually, we've said before, you can get a 7 or an 8 out of 10 from some players, and it was probably closer to a 6 or a 5 across some of those games. And I think that's what kind of told. Off the bench, actually, what I would say is I thought Thornton was really good across the three games. And
Seven Story's been quite good, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was probably a mistake not to start him against the Ospreys with McNally, just because of that physical edge that he brings, and then bring on Knott later on.
And the Monfort Hill rule.
Yeah,
No will.
exactly. So I think he's had a good few. Our bench did make a difference. There was more dynamism coming from Lloyd and from Botham, and Thornton put himself about. I've been really, yeah, as I said, I've been surprised by Thornton. He's towards the end of a career, and he could easily just be having those odd few games. But I think he's pushing to be kind of first choice in that partnership with McNally, because I think he brings a different dimension to, probably without having Teddy, the other locks.
That leads me on, Tony, to a question then, which obviously has the benefit of hindsight, but did Van Zyl get the team selection right, looking back across particularly the Dragons and the Ospreys game? And what would you have changed, I suppose, a little bit with hindsight, but I think there was plenty of discussion at the time about whether we were getting it right as well.
I'm not sure why both of them didn't start against the Ospreys. I was happy to see Big Al at number 8, but in hindsight, I was wrong. Balatau should have started that game as well. But we need to be seeing more out of both of them, because he just looks so abrasive and physical when he comes on. Like Simon mentioned earlier, we get so much of an extra edge when he's on the pitch from a couple of different perspectives, not just the carrying, but also like he's more of a bother at the breakdown, or it feels like he's more of a bother at the breakdown than Dan Thomas has been a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, I understand the 23-man game thing, and I tweeted this, that like, there's that cliche, but it's there for a reason, that you do have to have the full squad to win 80 minutes now. But also, like, if you've got your best players, get them on the pitch as much as possible, and both
especially
them
against a team that we struggle against.
Yeah, I just find that, like, Botham's, for me, he's almost like nailed on as a Wales squad selection when he's fit. He is that good, like in the competition of back rowers that we've got in Wales, but he is at the top level of that. And then to sort of leave him on the bench, and it just felt like we were being clever for the sake of being clever, almost, with that sort of selection. And it's like, sometimes just stick as many good players as you can on at once and try and win the game rather than be smart about it. We had quite a long comment, Harley, on Reddit from phone user 1044, and I like just that they've described how they use Reddit in their username. But, they said, I'd be interested in hearing where you guys feel we are in regards to playoff contention, and whether the recent derby defeats have been a blip, or whether we've all collectively jumped the gun a bit, hyping ourselves up after a great start to the season, and we're now just seeing a more accurate picture of where we are as a team. And that linked to a question from Gareth on one of the social media sites as well, saying, what percentage chance do you think we have of making the URC playoffs after the 3 festive derbies? What do you think that this means for the rest of our season?
I mean, it does. I don't think it rules us out from playoff, but I think if we come out of this with 3 out of 3 wins, or even two good wins, and then maybe, if the Ospreys game had finished that scoreline, but it was a bit more tit for tat, try each way, and we weren't blown out in a 20-minute spell, I'd probably feel a little bit better. But this is still easy enough. I mean, was it 6? We're 6 from 9. We've got 9 to go. Feasibly, we could pick 3 up out of that, and then you're looking at that with bonus points being around that 50-point mark, which is pretty much entry for the playoffs. But as I said earlier, it's the difference between being well within the playoffs contention and maybe pushing to have that home quarter final, or just scraping through and then knowing that you're either going down to Cape Town or Dublin to get absolutely togged in the first versus 8th. It's one of those. And my start season prediction, I predicted Cardiff would probably finish 9th, where everything was a little bit better, but not quite getting that another point. But I said, as for chances, I'd go 50-50, because we either do or we don't.
I think if you look at it, going into New Year's Day, we had more points than the other 3 Welsh regions put together. And I don't care if we've had an easier run in or not. You've got to win your games and get your points, and we've done that. So, we know the last block is a nightmare. I just think we've got to own it and go, why not? Why not? And, it's not, if we, as you say, Harley, if we picked up 10, 12 points over that period, you kind of go, oh yeah, we're absolutely flying. We've hit a blip. And it's now down to the coaches and the players and us on the terraces to get us through that blip that starts on Saturday and goes through Exeter and those type of those next two games. But if we can't handle like having a series of not great performances and then raise it again, then there's no point us being in the playoffs. Because if we can't deal with that adversity during the season, we're going to go to like Cape Town or Dublin or somewhere and just get smashed. It's kind of like, what's the point? So, I mean, I still think we've got a really good chance. I still think we can pick up points. I still think we can surprise teams where we look at them and go, oh God, I'm not quite sure about this. Because those teams will be expecting probably to run us over and get, bonus points done by half time. And then, so I still think we can pick up points in those games. But the rest of this block is really important now, including Ulster away, which is going to be a tough game. But yeah, I'm a bit more optimistic.
Seems like a good spot to finish that on-field stuff on. Just a reminder then, we are fourth in the URC on 31 points at the end of that fixture block. We've no risk of anyone of games in hand overtaking us anymore. Ulster and Stormers are both above us now. And we are currently 13 points clear of ninth place, who are Ulster, going into the next block of URC fixtures. We're starting in a few weeks, but yeah, I'm feeling better now.
How many points off the top are we?
I didn't look.
I didn't look
up.
That's the spirit.
Unfortunately, I wasn't optimistic at the time I looked at the table, so I didn't look up. But I think the Stormers are top with a game in hand, which is just ridiculous. Yeah. I feel like they're uncatchable almost at this point.
Well, I said they're unbeaten this season. Season.
They're cheating.
We are 5 behind the Stormers, but obviously if they've got their game in hand,
we've got to play them as well. So
we've got to play Ulster and Stormers above us.
Yeah. So last game of the season at home, Stormers.
Last game of the season.
We'll be playing one of the top seeded sides with our international players in theory.
Sounds good. Right.
Are you hastily arranging a friendly?
We shall move on to the news. There hasn't been actually any news really over the last couple of weeks. I just think that everyone's existing in a massive limbo now where nothing really comes out anymore. But brief injury update. Ed Byrne got re-injured playing for the Rags at Bridgend between Christmas and New Year, which is an absolute nightmare for him. Just comes back after over a year out and hobbles off. Corey Domachowski is back fit and available. He should have played on the weekend, but the second time that he's been due to play for the Rags on injury comeback, and both games have been called off. So I'm calling him a curse for the Rags now. I don't want to see him on a Rags team sheet ever again because we'll never see the Rags play otherwise. And then in the training video put out today, I mentioned a bit earlier, there was Ewan Lloyd and Tame Basham seem to be taking a fairly major part in training. So hopefully they're either close to or are back. And then there was a good image of Teddy Williams as well at the start of it, who obviously is some way away from actually getting back in the matchday squad yet. But just to see him back on the pitch and rehabbing is great. And if we can see him in a Cardiff squad before the end of the season, I think that would be a massive, massive boost no matter when that happens. The club have confirmed a double header on Saturday the 24th. It'll be the Rags against Ebbw Vale kicking off at 4:25 before Cardiff against Benetton at 7:45. £15 ticket on the North Terrace get you into both games, which I just think is unbelievable value in this day and age for 2 games of rugby. Although you do have to stand on the North Terrace, so you've got £20 of extra fees to get vaccinated before you get into the ground.
I'm sort of hoping that puts off some of the Ebbw fans coming down as well, because they are never fun days on the terrace when the Ebbw lot are around. They are very loud and very exuberant. They travel brilliantly. They
do travel in good numbers, and hopefully will be travelling in good numbers then. The Supporters Club are running a trip to Exeter week Sunday, leaving from Westgate Street at 9 a.m. You can email cardiffbsc@outlook.com or see them in the Pack Bar on Saturday. Obviously, you get for free added on that trip is you get to see Harley. So that's like the added bonus of like a VIP visit at the end. He's doing photos and signing autographs, I hear.
More impressively, due to popular demand from her Wales versus Japan video on the Rap channel, my mother will also be attending for those who want to see the real star of the family.
I think we should just clarify that Harley isn't some kind of host on the bus on the way down, like a celebrity host. Like you get on the.
I'm not going. Not going now.
when
You
when
get
it
on
arrives.
some of those, and Welsh Rugby International will be available for Q&As on the coach.
Old Penzone, Hollyworthy, and
Boo! Everyone boos him off.
It's a bit of a drop down from Stephen
Street,
Crib, isn't it? Playing for the Rags.
And then that's kind of it. Where I did note that there is sort of a brief update on Wales Online today about I think it's next Monday the deadline for the ownership bids. It's still the case that they're reporting that the two final ones are Martin Ryan and the Hollywood lads and Y11, but I think we'll just wait for actual news on that when it comes out, because as things stand, nobody really seems to know what the state of play of that is. And then just to finish the news, we've had two sad pieces of news over the last week in the passing of former players Ian Bryce and John Price. Ian Bryce has passed away aged 81. A former Cardiff schoolboy who played 11 games for the first 15 in the 1976-77 seasons, as well as a number of Rags games. Post-playing, he was well known as a key figure running the Crawshays Invitational side as an administrator, trustee, and later as their president. John Price, who was 89, joined Cardiff from Penarth in 1962 and played 76 games for the first 15 up to 1968. He also featured for the Rags, who he captained in the 1967-68 season. He would go on to play for Cross Keys and Glamorgan Wanderers, but remained a Cardiff Rugby man post-playing as an active member of the Former Players Association. Our thoughts are with their respective friends and families at this sad time. Ian Bryce and John Price, who passed away recently. At this halfway point of the pod then, if you are enjoying what you're listening to, please do feel free to like and subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're enjoying us on. Leave us a comment and a review. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the Rap channel and loads of good podcasts, including Rap, although their host is quite ugly, so you'll have to shut your eyes when he comes on the screen. But there's also the Global Gameline channel as well, which has loads of podcasts from outside the world of Welsh Rugby across the URC and beyond. Moving on to Rags Corner. Cardiff have only had one game in the last couple of weeks. The return fixture from the Bridgend doubleheader at the Brewery Field. It was a 33-10 win for the Rags. Tries from Steph Emmanuel, Ewan Stevens, Alan Rees, Johan Emmanuel, Ben Fry, and 8 points from Harry Wilde. Tony, you were there looking smug with your in-laws. How was the day for you?
I stood on the opposite terrace to just so I didn't get sullied. But the first 10-15 minutes, we made a bit of hard work of it. Probably turned a few chances down. Ed Byrne looked really good, so I was really disappointed to see him going off. But our scrum wasn't particularly great on the other side of it. Tom Howe played really well. The finish by Stevens, Yuan, was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely super. Like, we just put our foot down in the second half and just took it to them. Played some really nice stuff. And it's really nice to come away from the Christmas derby with 10 points or 12 points, I think, in the end, because of the strange bonus point.
The super duper bonus point, yeah.
Super duper bonus point. So, and obviously I had bragging rights, so that makes it all the better for me. I had a lovely trip. I was in Bridgend for Christmas, travelled home to watch the Dragons, saw us beat the Dragons, travelled back up, did a bit of shopping in my car to Glen, then went to the game, battered them, then drove home. Happy days.
Sounds like the ideal Christmas.
I was tempted to go to Aberavon on Saturday, but the weather put paid to that. So
yeah, as I read my mind, I was coming on to say we were meant to play Aberavon away on Saturday. Unfortunately, the Domachowski curse killed that one, and we didn't get out to that game. No game for the Rags this weekend. Technically for 2 weeks, although we do have a friendly next Friday, as they're hosting Wales under-20s at the Arms Park. I don't think they've really said anything about ticketing on that yet, but we'll mention it next week if we find out. Other pathway bits, the Wales under-20s have named an extended training squad for that game and prior to the Six Nations. Cardiff representatives in the form of Tom Howe, Tom Cottle, Gabe Williams, Sean Davis, Lloyd Lucas, Steph Emmanuel, Oshan Darwin-Lewis, Bailey Cutts, Tom Bowen, Joseph Jones, and Reese Cummings, and a bunch of former Cardiff guys in there as well. So really good representation for the pathway. I think the Cardiff one is their only game of the warm-ups. But the other thing to say is obviously the likes of Steph Emmanuel and Tom Bowen named in there, as is always the case with the under-20s. If they are needed by Cardiff, they will be released back to us. They don't hold on to players to play under-20s when the option of playing senior professional rugby is there. So wouldn't necessarily be a surprise to see Bowen and Emmanuel involved in one or both of the games over the next 2 weeks for Cardiff and not playing against the Rags on that Friday night. There is some other rugby this weekend. I think Sunday, Celtic Challenge. Harley, remind me again why Brython Thunder are playing at the Arms Park when they're nominally the western side.
So Hattie sort of explained this. It's because Scarlets are hosting Bristol the night before, and apparently
Oh, your audio dropped out there, Harley.
yeah.
Oh,
So
you're back.
apparently it's apparently to do with Scarlets having their game against Bristol the night before.
Yeah.
That seems to be the only reason for it. Other than it's a WRU run thing now, so of course it doesn't make sense.
Cardiff ultimately takes over everybody. Let's be honest. We'll have all the teams in the end. They'll just all be based out of the Arms Park. But yeah, that's on Sunday afternoon. Brython Thunder are playing. I don't actually know who they're playing. I didn't look. One of the Irish teams, I think. But that's in the Celtic Challenge if you want to get down and watch some women's rugby there. Right, on to the final part of the podcast then, looking ahead to this Saturday's Cardiff game. We're hosting Racing 92 back into European Challenge Cup action, 3:15 p.m. kickoff at the Arms Park. If you're not getting down to the ground, it's only on Premier Sports this one, so you'd have to fork out to watch on them. Weather-wise, it's looking dry actually on Saturday, but it's looking dead snowy on Thursday, so hopefully it's cleared before the game kicks off. Head-to-head wise, we're up on Racing 2-1 at the moment, whereas we done the double over them in 2011-12, but lost 2 years ago in January 2024, 48-26 at the Ladefont Spaceship / Nightclub Arena. Racing are currently 11th in the top 14, which doesn't sound like great, but then for anyone who doesn't closely follow the top 14, it is bonkers. It's a bonkers league full of bonkers people and bonkers teams. So they're 11th, but they're 6 points off third. And every team from third, Stade Francais, to Racing in 11th, have all won either 7 or 8 games. It's purely on bonus points and points difference that teams are split. So although 11th doesn't sound great, they are well in the run-in for a playoff spot. Over the last 3 games of the festive period in the top 14, they drew with Stade in the Paris derby. I don't know if that's got a name, Le Classique or something like that, but that was 20 all. They beat newly promoted Montauban at home and then got thumped by Bordeaux away on the weekend. Quite impressively, I think they lost the second half 42-7, having been quite close at half time. In the Challenge Cup pool, they are currently 5th, having sent a B team to Ulster and got hammered, and then put out a B team at home to Exeter and drew. We are above them in 4th. We're 2 points ahead of them at the moment. For Cardiff, a win this weekend and Cheetahs failing to beat Ulster means that we're into the round of 16, but we need to get about 6 more points if we want to secure a home round of 16 game. Judging by the last 2 years of this bonkers format of the Challenge Cup pool scenario where nothing really makes sense and you just sort of find out what you've got at the end of the pool stage and hope for the best. The question that's to start with, Simon, back to phone user 1044, who says, before the derbies, I would have happily said send the academy in for Europe, and although the wheels fell off a bit in December, that should still be the strategy. The only worry I have is momentum. If we suffer back-to-back defeats, that could hurt morale, whereas a win might buoy the team ahead of a must-win against Benetton when the URC returns. I think that sums up quite nicely the headspin I'm in as well about how do we approach this Challenge Cup fortnight? Do we go for it? Do we mix things up? Do we throw it completely? I don't even know if I have an actual answer to that question, so over to you.
Well, I think on the Challenge Cup format, it's like one of those magic 8-ball things where you just kind of shake the 8-ball and it's like, oh, Cardiff, Nottingham Forest, how did they get in there? But they're in the last 16. None of it makes sense. Nobody knows how it works. It's just they put teams in an order at the end and some teams go through. I think after the performance, I think we need to make changes because I think players need to be rested. And I would expect quite a few changes to be made, considering players have just played 3 games in actually probably 3 games in 2 weeks, to be honest.
3 games in like 13, 14 days.
13, 14, but with the emotional energy around that. It wouldn't surprise me if they kind of give a few players some time off. We've got to win it. I think we've got to get 5 points out of it. It'll be interesting. This will be the game Racing decide to go, oh, let's not send our B team. Let's send our firsts and then send their B team for the rest of it. I don't know how interested they are. I'm assuming they're at home then in the last round.
Yeah, and I haven't had a look at their team selections for those 3 festive games. They went strong in each of them. I think they only went through about 28, 29 players. So they've kept the same core of their big guys, your Johnny Hills, Safa Fuanuas, Gail Ficus, all these kind of guys have all played a lot in that time. So I would still expect them to send at least a 50-50 team, if not a totally changed team.
Yeah, so, we've got to win with a bonus point. I don't think we can just throw it and go, oh, we're going to concentrate on the league. I think you probably could lean a bit more into that if we got 3 wins or 2 wins and a bonus point. But I think we now need to build momentum. We've probably lost momentum since the autumn. Okay, we came back with that great win in Italy. But we've lost momentum, lost the Stad. Interesting, that Stad, just to your point earlier, Dan, we collapsed in the first 20 minutes of the second half of that game as well. And it was down to, oh, well, we've got a lot of youngsters playing, but we conceded a try and then started just conceding tries. So, the first 20 minutes of the second half were obviously a danger zone for us a little bit. So, yeah, I think we've got to target it, bring in some fresh legs. You're either going to have Bowen or Stevens. I can't see Josh Adams playing. What we do with Mason Grady, I don't know. But I would expect some changes, but changes with a view of we still need to win this. I think I'd be really disappointed if it looked like a really weakened side where we've got, more of the academy players in than kind of non-academy players, because we can still go through. You don't want to go to Exeter we need 2 bonus points from Exeter.
There was quite a few comments sort of along those lines. Ben said, I would make changes for Saturday. Van Zyl didn't really change the squad for the derbies and we look lethargic against the Ospreys. Bowen has to come back into the mix. Sid said he'd start Evan Lloyd, bench or rest McNally, bring Botham and Falatau in and Bowen has to start. And Morgan said, would like to see some of the younger players given a run against Racing. Tony, I don't know if you've got any strong thoughts on which way you would go for the team selections in this one and Exeter.
I think I want Ben Thomas at 12. I've toyed with thinking about Steph Emmanuel there, but I want Ben Thomas there. I want Mulder, Sheedy, Thomas, basically, just because I think they need game time again together, just to try and pull some stuff through. If Adams isn't playing, Grady's got to play, I guess. We've really missed Bowen. I think we talked about it after the Scarlets pod. We miss that X factor when he's not on the bench or on the pitch. There's something to just we're not I've mentioned this before. We're not a naturally noisy crowd, so we need someone or something to happen to get us going. And if that's Bowen, who just gets everyone going because he's absolutely electric, or someone just starts a scrap. Those are my 2 options. Either you have Rory Thornton starting a scrap early, or you have Tom Bowen having a big old run down the wing, get us going, get into Racing. It's going to be cold, like you said. There should be so many slap thighs at the bottom of rucks that those French lads come away with, Josh McNally handprints all over their thighs. Just in. I hope in training, what they haven't shown is the Cardiff lads just practicing the little ear flips you used to do to other kids in the school corridors, just picking the back of their ears. Just get them not wanting to be there. Let's get Racing up, let's beat Racing so we don't have to worry about Exeter. And then
turn all the radiators off in the away changing room as well.
Yeah, someone should be in there painting the away changing room a poo brown colour. Just absolutely fully demoralise them. Proper old school mind games.
Have you seen the away change room at the Arms Park? I don't think it needs. I don't think it needs much to demoralise people. To be fair.
But yeah.
Harley, I suppose I'm going to make you an offer. If I offered you a sort of bare minimum of two losses, but they were good enough performances that you took momentum into that Benetton game, would you take that now as kind of that Benetton game being the big sort of star fixture of the next few weeks, or are we still looking to qualify for round of 16 and get a win in one of these two games?
I mean,
You've dropped out again, Hal.
I'm not sure what's happening to your audio there, Harley.
Yeah.
I can see your lips
Sounds
moving.
like he's in a fish
Yeah,
bowl.
I'm sure it's a really interesting answer as well. um, I will say that I probably wouldn't take that. I think I'd really like to progress in the round of 16. Harley, are you back now? No, he said maybe, and then nothing came out. Yeah, I probably wouldn't take. I'd really like us to beat Racing on Saturday. I think when the fixture came out, I circled this one ahead of some of the derbies this season as like, oh, really like to beat Racing on a Saturday afternoon at the Arms Park. Hopefully, a good crowd. And there's just something about playing French teams which I really enjoy in Europe as well. And I'd mentioned that they'll probably send a change team over. Their change team will still be worth double probably what our team is
Yeah,
that we're putting out
absolutely.
because their wage bill is unreal. Like the change team that they sent to Ulster had like Will Rowlands in the second row, and you know that if Will Rowlands came back to Wales, he would start for pretty much all of the Welsh clubs. Like even though he hasn't been great for Wales, he would still go in and wear 4 or 5 for all of us, I think, at this point. So it's still a
Minis
massive
and
test.
juniors day as
Is
well.
it?
So
Oh,
there'll be
okay.
7 to 11s, I think it is. So there'll be lots of kids there. So hopefully they can get loud and screechy and into the French lads.
I think as well, it's about the general narrative around the club as well. You know, we've gone from being, wow, what a great season we're having, to now having a bit of a struggle, pick up a heavy defeat in Exeter and a defeat at home to Rat. Suddenly, you know, it is like, oh, crisis for Cardiff. Where are they going? How are they going? And that does, I think that does affect players. That does get into the psyche as well. So I think scrappy wins are wins, and it may well be what we need to do just to get this festive season out of our system is to just fight to get a couple, at least a win. I don't think we'll win in Exeter because I don't think I've ever seen us do anything other than get buried in Exeter. So
Home wins are really important as well.
yeah,
Got to keep that Arms Park fortress sort of mentality going. Yeah.
We'll head on towards
absolutely.
team
Oh, is Harley
selection. Oh,
back?
we heard
Yeah,
you now,
I am back.
Harley.
I am back. I think my I said I think the main microphone was dying. I just I'm totally basically putting the same thing as you want to win your home games because one, it
Yeah.
keeps people coming through the door, keeps the vibes up. I said I'd have loved us to go all out in Challenge Cup, but to be honest, I think if we go hard against Racing, slightly easier for Exeter, and then and then see where we lie after that. If we get a home knockout, great, because that's a good bit of cash from the till. But if not, don't worry about it, because the European competitions just don't have the same magic anymore. There's too many teams. The format's too wishy-washy. I could go on for hours. I mean, I think me and David Lawrence of Scrum the Earth have a pod plan. Currently, have a pod plan of what we would do to the competition to make it slightly better again. But
Is one of it set it on fire?
a big part of it is just scrap about 80% of it. But yeah,
it's a real shame, isn't it? Because these weekends used to be, you know, the rivalries that you didn't get domestically, and you built a bit of a rivalry home and away. And I think I said it after the Stad game. You built a bit of rivalry home and away against teams, and I think that really engaged people that maybe weren't natural or just international rugby fans or casual rugby fans. You know, you had those kind of Northampton Munster games, Leicester Munster games, home and away, that were kind of iconic moments in professional rugby. And it feels so bland now. It feels bereft of any and I'm not saying that as a Cardiff fan just because we never get through the whole thing. I used to think, wow, these are really great games to watch. Now I'm just like, it's just another competition that's sadly won by the clubs, often with the biggest resources. There's very few upsets kind of along the way. There's no story to it that would engage a casual viewer. It's just built for the richest clubs to win year after year. It's been hollowed out, and it's a real shame, because now we look at these weekends about should we rest players for the league rather than God, we want to go deep in these competitions. I think Cardiff have always respected the Challenge Cup more so than other sides, but yeah, it just feels it just fills me with sad. It wouldn't be a pod if I wasn't sad about something. So like Eeyore. So I'm sad about European rugby today.
From a personal perspective, I did like 4 years on the bounce where I went to every single Cardiff European game. I did home and away, and the first game I missed was the Cardiff Northampton game where Xavier Rush got sent off for a high tackle on Courtney Laws. That was because I was stuck in Tesco car park because it snowed, and I was in a massive queue of cars, and I couldn't get out to get down to the ground. So yeah.
I think to underline the point about European rugby is that the Dragons and the Ospreys are both playing Italian opposition away, Benetton and Zebra, and obviously we played Ulster before. Like, you don't want to play league fixtures in Europe. It's just not what you want to do. And I have made a timestamp note of this though, because of course when we do make it to Bilbao at the end of the season, we'll scrub this from the internet and we'll give it. We love the Challenge Cup. The magic's still there.
Best competition ever.
I don't think it's easy opinion, because the pool stage used to be important in Europe. Now it doesn't matter. Like, the only thing that's interesting is the knockouts, because they've geared it so make sure the big sides always go through, which is fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Well, we shall move on to team selection. So I mentioned in the injury news, I'm ruling out Ed Byrne, Ben Donnell and Theo Cabango. Still no sign of the latter two in any sort of training at the moment. Basham and Lloyd were back. We'll put a question mark next to them, maybe have them in if they're fit, and somebody else if not, if we choose to include them. Other than that, there was a pretty decent bill of health for the squad at this stage of the season. So Simon, front row, pretty decent stocks available at the moment. You've got Domachowski, Southworth and Barrett on the loose head side. Evan Lloyd, Belcher, Dav Hughes, and possibly Ethan Lewis if he's still around, although he looks like a prime candidate to join the Naught Appearance Loan Club at this point of time. And then on the tight edge, you've got Azarati, Sebastian and Wainwright. Which way are you going for starters there?
Well, I'm all sad now. I don't care anymore. So I think the loan stuff is really funny, isn't it? It's like we panic. Oh, someone's injured. Get a loan in. Oh, we don't need him anymore. Oh, right. Okay. Sorry, mate. Can you just go back?
Bring them into scrimmage and training.
Yeah, I would. Domachowski, if he is ready to start, with Barrett on the bench, Lloyd, Dav Hughes, and Wainwright, and probably Sebastian in case we need a try late on. I think they'll go for a change, change it up. I'd really like to see Lloyd get some game time, because I think he looks like he's come on this season, but he's not quite getting the consistent game time. And I do think his physicality and his presence is challenging Belcher as well. Because the other thing I think is we've got to make sure that nobody's got a guaranteed place in this team. That's where that complacency comes in and maybe performances drop a little bit. So I don't know. I just go for I can't remember who started. Did Southwood start against Ospreys?
So I actually can't remember. No, Barrett started, I think, did he? And then Southworth come on?
It might well be.
And then the other side was Azarati and Sebastian came on.
Yeah, Sebastian covering tight end and wing, of course, as a duo there, just in case we need him. Tony, second rows. I mean, it's just McNally, not Thornton at this point still, but there's a lot of chat around whether McNally does need a rest or not, or whether they had 3 days off last weekend. That was enough. We mentioned Thornton played well. I thought Not was going all right prior to Christmas. Didn't have the greatest set of derby fixtures that I've ever seen, though. But which way would you go for those three as a two starters and a bench option?
When are the under-20s in camp?
Oh, yeah, I can offer you Cottle as well. They will release him, I suppose, if they haven't gone into camp yet.
I would be tempted, based on what Simon was saying earlier, was um, McNally, Thornton, Cottle
Yeah.
as a just because you've got it gives him that big game experience in a cup in Europe, which is what we've tended to do with like Stefan Manuel and stuff like that. Give him that first game experience there, where not that it doesn't matter, but it's probably seen as less important. But yeah, by the way, I would go Sebastian on to start, but over
Wainwright.
over Wainwright. Yeah,
Well,
I
Harley,
think
we're harking back to tight heads. You got to decide and vote. Are you going Sebastian or
I,
Wainwright? Don't say
I don't.
Azarati.
I was going to say I would have Azarati at tight end, and I'd have the full on front row to come off the bench.
Oh, hang on. What, you got Azarati to start or?
Azarati bench.
Oh, okay.
I'd have the Ronda front row bench, and then I'd have either Southworth or Barrett. Okay, I'm not sure if Southworth went off for an injury or whatever. Evan Lloyd starting. I'd go.
So who are you starting out of Sebastian and Wainwright, though? That's my big question.
I'd start Sebastian.
Oh, right. Well, we're
because
get tries early, innit?
So for me, it's getting the best, as we were talking about with both of them, get the best players on the pitch for as long as possible. And I think for me, Sebastian has been our best player.
Sebastian's probably up there for player of the season.
Big call halfway through. Right, Harley, back row. So you've got Man Botham, Thomas, Faletau, Lawrence as your 5 definites. And then if you want to chuck a Basham in there as well, I'll accept that with a proviso of who you put in as a question mark if he's not quite fit.
I'm going to go, because I think Man just hitting a run of form. So for me, I'm keeping him at 6. I'd start Faletau, one, because I just think he's always offers so much more from the start than he does off the bench. And then I'd go for Jim Botham's that extra physicality at 7. Plus, also, then you've got a bit more of a jackal threat.
Plus one.
Who would be your bench cover back row? Because I'm putting a 5-3 bench down. I know we've for a long time gone for 6-2 benches as we quite like the physicality. I'm sick of them now after the last few weeks. I just don't think they're working for us. I think we're losing a lot of backs punch by not having any real options there off the bench. So we're sticking with 5-3. So who's in your 20 jersey?
I'd probably go with Big Al, because then again he's covering. You've got him covering potentially second row as well as 6 and 8.
Sounds good to me. Simon, I don't know. Is it a slightly obvious one? I don't know. Half back. There's obviously Mulder, Davis, and Bevan at 9. Sheedy at 10 is kind of the only option where Lloyd, we don't really know if he is fully fit or not. There is Harry Wild as well, possibly, though. Which way are you going for your halfbacks?
I think I would agree with Tony. I think you go with Mulder and Sheedy. We still need to win the game. We still need a team, that partnership to move us around the field. I'd probably put Bevan on the bench. If he's not on the bench, then where is he for this game? He might well start against Exeter, I guess, depending on where we're at. But yeah, I'd agree with Tony. I think you pick those 2. Maybe if Lloyd's fit, you could put him on the bench because he covers a few positions.
Tony, we've obviously had Thomas from you at 12 already. At 13, I'm gonna step in with my penciled in player here and invite anything. I'm starting Schmidt at 13. Tony agrees, good. I just think it's not a criticism of Millard, and I don't think he's even really playing that badly necessarily. He's doing what he needs to do, but I just think we need something a bit different there after the last few weeks. It's just not. Something's missing from that midfield, and I think Schmidt, we've only seen bits and pieces of him, mostly in that Stade Francais game, but I thought he looked quite physical, quite quick, quite direct, and if the big proviso around him is if we use him correctly, bringing him a bit shorter off 10 and 12 and straightening that defence up a bit, I think he could be something that we've lacked since the end of Lilo towards the back end of last season in that just somebody who's going to take the ball at a good line, at a good pace, and cut through. Tony, you obviously agree. You'd had the same thought.
I did, yeah. But now I'm starting to panic that he's not registered.
No,
He played
yeah,
against
he is.
that.
They
Oh yeah, he
superimposed
did play
his
against
face.
Stud.
They superimposed his face onto somebody else's body on the squad list on the Challenge
Was
Cup
it mine?
website. So
Is that legal? Is
I
that
don't
a
know, but they're
registration?
definitely not his arms. I'm sure of it. They're different colour. Stars. Unless he's sort of lent into the tanning bed in a really weird manner. I don't know how he ends up like that. But no, yeah, he is definitely registered. I did notice. For one of the clips in the training video this week, they were running with Thomas and Smith with Bowen off the left wing as one of their moves. Presumably, somebody coming short and then Bowen popping up off the left wing as that's the only move they ever do run. But yeah, I think that would be the solid centre partnership.
They're
Harley,
Danny Southworth's arms.
then there we go. That's what he wants as an outside centre. That he's got the loose head props arms.
Let's not work out
They've
how
just
Tony worked that one out. Let's just leave that
they've
hanging,
just
all
shrunk.
right?
I'm looking at the squad list.
Yeah,
They've
okay,
just
Tony.
shrunk the bodies to proportion, and the shadows are the same.
You don't have to justify it to us, Tony. It's fine.
I
One
can
question
share
I
my
had
screen if you want.
are they ever going to move Mason Grady to 13?
Not
Well,
from
this
what
is.
Van
I
Zyl
don't
said.
think it's going to. Because I would go. I don't have a problem at all with Schmidt playing 13. But it's one of those where I'm like, well, if he needs game time, I also wonder whether in the derby some of that was about right Welsh players who might be for selection need to be picked
Yeah.
across those 3 games, and that's why we kind of changed the type of wingers we have across those 3 games. But it does make me wonder about are we ever going to see him at 13? Or is that now not on the table at all, and it's just wing, which is fine. I don't really mind what position he plays, but
I think what Van Zyl said was that he'd be on the wing for now while he's just playing consistent rugby and he'd just focusing on that. But I agree, there's Owen Lane sense to this where he was sort of the next big hope at 13. It was like, yeah, you can play on the wing for now and then he move in, and then in sort of 2 years we'll go, well, he never really did move in the end, did he? And he just sort of stayed out there. And yeah, I mean, there's another Cardiff link, Emmanuel Feiwaboso, same thing, came through as a 13 and is now seen as pretty much a winger full time. So, yeah, it is an interesting one. I wouldn't be against them putting Grady at 13 this weekend against Exeter, whenever really. But I think there's still huge question marks over elements of his game there that you wouldn't.
Effort.
Well, and just like defensive reading, I'd have a big query around as well. And I haven't got a problem with them investing in that, but I also sort of think the other side of my brain says we would quite like to win now and make these playoffs no matter what. So is now the right time to be investing in that? It's a tricky one. Obviously, it's always tricky with 13s to develop them. But yeah, I suspect it's a question which the coaching staff have the same debate about quite a lot in their meetings as well. And I don't really know what the correct answer is. But for winning this weekend, I would like Schmidt over Grady, but we shall see. Harley back 3. Potential for quite a lot of change here, I guess, having pretty much seen Adams win it and Grady throughout the festive derbies. Which way would you go with? Well, we got Ewan Stevens available. I haven't played for the Rags. Tom Bowen, obviously. There's Elijah Evans has played on the wing quite a lot for the Rags the last few weeks. Could be a right wing option. Jacob Beetham and Matty Young at fullback as well. Where are you going with your trio?
You're asking about the least comfortable positions on the pitch for me, but because I never get anywhere near the back three. I mean, I think for me, I think whether it's Bowen or Stevens, I think one of them has to come in just so we've got that going back to that classic jockey of pure pace on the left wing, then the more physical right wing. Whether that's you giving Josh Adams the rest because he's had a lot of minutes, and they seem to, and the coaching staff is very keen on trying to play Grady. Imagine that you look at them wingers. Winner, he's still probably all right in their best fullback, but do you want to give him a couple of weeks off, knowing that there's a chance that we're going to need him for Benetton if he's not called up into the Wales squad the Ulster game. I mean, he's likely going to end up going to the Wales squad, so he's going to get flogged a bit in there at least, or get his second training. So I'd be inclined to go for Beetham just to give him some minutes there. But then if they're carrying on the jockey thing of seeing him more as a centre, then I guess you're looking at him. Which is back a lot, but I don't think they're going to fall the thing is bring someone like Matthew Young or Elijah Evans in.
So who's on your right?
I'd probably go Grady right wing.
Hmm.
So give Adams the rest, and then I'd go preferably Bowen. But if it was Ewan Stevens, I wouldn't. I think it's got to be one or the other of them.
Yeah, I think that's similar to what I was thinking. I'd be interested to see Grady on the right wing, whether we are able to get his hands on the ball a little bit more, where we bring the right winger into midfield a touch more, as we're more comfortable playing right to left as well. But that's an interest. The only thing I did wonder is maybe they try Matty Young again at fullback, only because. This could be for next week and perhaps Exeter. I suspect we may have to play him there against Ulster, because there's not a long chance that both Beetham and Winnett make the Wales squad. And if that's the case, then Matty Young is the only real fullback left there. So, but he could be somebody, if we were to win on Saturday and sent a very changed team to Exeter, could start a fullback. Filling in the bench then with that team that we've selected, I suspect we could use Thomas as the 10 cover if Lloyd isn't fit, and have Emmanuel perhaps in the 22 jersey, with Young or Stevens in the 23 jersey. I don't know if anyone's got any strong thoughts on who. So I'll whack Stevens in there just to get him in, because he's always played well when he plays, really. I'm quite enjoyable.
The advantage of Smith at 13 is that he covers 12 wing and 15, doesn't he? So
cool.
He's also offered to help people do their tax returns, teach their kids.
I mean, he might play second row by the end of it. So,
so the R1 to 23 then, we got Domachowski, Lloyd, Sebastian, McNally, Thornton, Mann, Botham, Falatau, Mulder, Sheedy, Bowen, Thomas, Smith, Grady, Beetham, Hughes, Barrett, Wainwright, Cottle, Lawrence, Bevan, Steph Emmanuel, and Stevens, which I think strikes a nice balance between changed but also strong enough to go and get the result on Saturday. I think that's close. Oh, there was one. Has anyone got anyone else to say anything about
just
the
to say, Dan, we haven't picked the two travelling reserves, which we never do every week, and I just think it's
at home it's like
disrespecting that position.
I think it was everyone else
6 now. Yeah. I'll tell you, I'll permanently pencil in Will Davis King as the tight end. Yeah. Any other comments on the Racing game? Any more on that?
No.
All good. One any other business question then that came in from Morgan on Blue Sky. As you may see, I'm wearing my anniversary top from the 2000-2001 season. He asks, what's your favourite Cardiff shirt over the years you've been supporting? I was quite young when this came out. It's not mine. I didn't buy an adult size one when I was like 6, thanks to Julie Jones and her father, the legend Eddie, for giving it to me. But this or one of those Nike ones from the 90s is up there for me. Tony, we've got a background change. That's one of the Cotton Trader ones, is it?
No, it's Nike.
It is a Nike one, is it?
Yeah, it's like 95, something around that. And that's me.
That's the one they wore in the first Heineken Cup final, is it?
I think so, yeah. Something around that. Yeah, it's me.
You look incredibly like your son Joseph in that photo, which I think is good for sort of confirmation purposes, I suppose.
Great audio podcast.
I know. I'll post it on one of my many social medias.
We'll post it on ours as well. Simon, what's on your list?
This is probably a bit left field, but the salmon pink one that I think it was the season that we won in Marseille that we had it. Just from going up to Newcastle, Casey Lawalala in that top, absolutely destroying them. I've always had it's sat in my wardrobe. It's a bit tighter on me now than it was all those years ago. So it doesn't get many outings, but I always have a soft spot for that top.
Harley?
Favourite one I've owned at similar zone is going to be the 2017-2018 with the blue and yellow stripes that we won Thames Cup in. But I mean the absolute all favourites. So even before I was really properly into rugby in sport in Cardiff, that I always remember, it's always in my head. It's got to be that original Breast Cancer UK pink one. Or I won the one
that's
that
the one I've got.
Joe Malone was war, and no, I can't even quite remember what year it was. I think so.
Was that the one that we played Gloucester in, where Tom James got sent off for a headbutt?
It is,
could
yes.
well have been, yeah.
But it's just something that it's just one that's always just stuck in my mind, and I've always loved it. I've always been quite excited whenever Cardiff bring out a pink kit, and it just makes me think of that. Although, to be honest, lately, whenever we've worn a pink kit, we've played fucking awful. So maybe it's time to retire it.
Good stuff. Well, thank you, Simon.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Tony.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Sorry,
Harley.
I was trying to find a picture of that pink kit from Gloucester. And me wearing it in Gloucester.
Thank you very much to you at home for listening as well. We'll be back next week. We'll look back on the Racing game ahead to Exeter, as well as seeing if there's any Wales Six Nations squad news to discuss as the time comes close to Steve Tandy picking that. But we will speak to you next week. Goodbye.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.